Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now, and we have our experts, Kunal Bothra as well as Sharmila Joshi, standing by. Let's bring on board our queries for the day. And remember, all of you who are tuning in on your TV sets, you can actually WhatsApp your queries to us. If you do not have the number, please note it down. It's 8657974571. Do ping in your queries to us on WhatsApp as well. But let me begin taking the queries that we have on our social media sites as well. And the first one is from Kunal Kaushik, and he is asking a general question, asking us about Evergrande debacle. He's wondering, will it work positively for India, or will we see a 2008 kind of crash? He wants the experts to throw some light on that. Sharmila, Evergrande crisis, everyone is actually trying to understand. Even the world is grappling with it. There's a fear of a contagion effect as well. How should India view it, or how should investors view it? It doesn't make sense to be rattled by it way too much, because we have a lot of experts saying that there would be some kind of restructuring coming in for Evergrande.
Yes, I think that stands to reason that at some point in time, China, the Chinese government is going to have to step in to do some kind of restructuring. But I think his query is sort of specific in the sense of what are the Indian companies, or whether there is an opportunity. I think it's really too early to really speak about that either way. And I'm really confused about that bit as of now. But I do think that in terms of whether it would be as bad as 2008, I think no. Mainly for two reasons. One is, of course, we are comparing it with 2008 because the values sort of seem similar. But that was so many years ago, and that was 2008. This is 2021. So all economies have grown. So in that sense, that value doesn't remain. You can't view it as the same as what we viewed it back in 2008. And also, I think in terms of the way the Chinese economy is, it's a far more closed economy as compared to the US. So if there was a crisis in US, the contagion for markets like us, because we are pegged against the dollar for many things, was the risk. We did definitely carry a greater contagion risk in 2008, simply because it was a US crisis as against a China crisis. I mean, as a simple thing, that when the Chinese markets go up, it's not necessary that we go up, but we almost always sort of react positively to or negatively to the Dow being up or down. So yes, I think this is definitely news that needs to be tracked, and perhaps the one way of looking at it could be to see which are the US companies and how US markets are really reacting to this, because we will obviously take cue from there. And also this the liquidity that we keep talking of, like for instance yesterday we did see good amount of buying, meaning the FIs didn't sell. It was the good amount of selling came from the domestic investors. So that would be a key number to track going ahead, as to how really foreign institutional investors react to this in terms of emerging markets like India. But I honestly at this point in time don't think that we can really draw complete parallels to the 2008 situation.
All right. Yeah, I guess, Sharmila, a lot still has to be known, and the too big to fail message, is it indeed too big to fail, and will they allow to fail? That's the big question I think everyone's asking. Just a quick reminder to the two of you, do keep your answers as short as possible, because a lot of viewers have asked questions and we'd like to take as many of them as possible. The next one is for you, the next one is for you, Kunal, and it is from Kiran. He's holding 320 shares of Lupin, bought at a price of 1,161. He's got a long-term view. He can hold for more than a year. So what should he do based on what you're seeing on the charts, Kunal?
Well, I would suggest to shift out from Lupin towards either Cipla or Sun Pharma. I think Lupin has been a big underperformer in the last 14-15 months of the market rally. You try and compare this stock with the other large cap pharma names, or you look at it over the last 3 to 4 months, the stock has seemed to be a sure disappointment as such. So I would suggest a shift from Lupin towards either shifting towards a Cipla or maybe a Sun Pharma as well.
Alright, this one is coming from Sukanya, and she's a senior citizen and a long-term investor. She's asking, is it a good idea to sell Bodal Chemicals? She had bought it at 182 rupees per share, and instead go ahead and buy Indiabulls Real Estate at current levels. Sharmila, would you be able to shed some light on this? Does it make sense to go ahead and sell Bodal Chemicals and now purchase Indiabulls Real Estate?
Well, I think she can probably continue to hold Border Chemicals. I think that you could see another sort of a 5 to 7% kind of a rally from these prices. And in any case, I think, since maybe she's sitting on good profits, so she may want to book out. But I don't know whether India Bulls real estate is the best stock to shift to. I think if you had to sell it, then I would probably look at some stock in IT or pharma. But my basic advice would be to continue to hold on to Border Chemicals.
Okay, we've got, well, he hasn't mentioned the name. So, guys, if you're sending us a message on WhatsApp, do mention your name. It becomes easier to take. We've got a question coming in from Sanjay Mishra. He's asking about IOC and he's bought at levels of 113 or thereabouts. Kunal, a significant quantity bought. What should he do based on the charts?
I think you can stay put on IOC as of now. The charts are not, going through a reversal mode, or at least a sharp reversal mode like the other PSU stocks in that sense. So I believe that the possibility of the uptrend, could remain intact for IOC is still very much high. I would suggest that if you can probably keep a stop loss of 110 on the trade, since you bought at lower levels, I think 110 could be a sizable stop loss for your trade over there. And I think if the stock manages to bounce back, and if this 110 level doesn't get breached, 110 level doesn't get breached, then I would sense that the stock should come back towards at least a 120, 122, if not more.
This one is coming from KJ Singh, wants a long-term view on alkyl amines and Dixon Tech, but either alkyl amines or Dixon Tech. Sharmila, would you want to share your views on how they look over the longer term?
Alkyl amines definitely looks good. I think this is, the way the numbers have panned out, as well as the valuation the stock is trading at. I mean, that could be slightly on the higher side, but I think that overall, this is a stock that he can continue to hold.
Coming back to you, Sharmila, on the textile space, I think a lot of people are waiting and watching to see what the developments are here. We've got Seema who's asking which specifically you would pick in the textile space. Which stock?
I don't have any stocks that I like in the space, but perhaps something like a Welspun, because they have been through sort of issues in the past, and now they seem to be getting over those. So that could be a stock to look at, in terms of price rise going ahead because of the news in the space.
Right. The next query is coming in from Nino Kuruvilla and wants to know about R Systems International. Is there any chance to get a technical view on the short term? Entry price is 190 rupees per share. The target that she's looking at is 225 rupees per share. Kunal, R Systems International?
Well, I think the stock already went towards testing the 225 mark, if I'm not wrong, on just about the mid of September. A week back, last week, I think, if I'm not wrong. The stock seems to be now into a zone where the risk reward could be a bit skewed. So I'm not sure of the exact buying price of the investor, but I would suggest that if it's prudent enough to try and book out profits over here, because there is a possibility that the stock may retest its previous support, which is around this 185 mark, and then I think probably complete a process of correction and then start to scale up higher. So I think it could be prudent enough. It's a very short-term strategy that you look to exit at current levels. Look to buy back again if the stock comes back towards 185. That's a good sizable support for the stock over the near term, and I think from there the risk reward could be far more better for you to try and even aim for at least a 205, 210.
You got Mr. Radhakrishnan, who's invested in Mindtree, or rather he's got 80 shares so far that he's bought at levels of 197. He's asking whether he can add more at this juncture or should he wait?
So I think, is it Mindtree? Mindtree, you rightly said, Alex, and at a price of 190.
Yeah, he's talking about Mindtree. Yeah, that's what he said.
So I think it's been a phenomenal investment for the viewer. I think if he's bought at 190 odd levels, the stock is already perched at 4,000 plus. Now, I think at current levels, what best I would suggest is to try and hold on to the stock, even at a time when there could be a slight bit of volatility or choppiness which could come by into these IT stocks over the next couple of months. So the markets are going into a zone where you would probably see an eventual risk of happening. So many of these sectors and stocks which have rallied up significantly higher, even these stocks can go through a correction of 10 to 15, 20% odd, along the way. So I think even on those times, my advice would be to stick out and, hold on to Mindtree. I think if you bought at such lower levels, over the next 1 or 2 years, at least I believe that many of these IT stocks, specifically the mid-cap names, could do phenomenally well even from current levels. So short-term wise, would expect marginal corrections along the way, but long-term wise, I think the story is extremely bullish for many of these IT stocks, including Mindtree.
Okay, this one is coming from Soumitra, and he's saying he has a significant quantity of Loras Laboratories which he purchased at 250 rupees per share levels. He wants to know, can he accumulate more at current level? What's your take, Kunal? Makes sense currently at current levels for Soumitra to go ahead and accumulate Loras Labs?
Well, you can look to accumulate, but I would suggest that a better zone to accumulate Loras Labs would be closer to 540 mark, 540, 550. This is where the previous major support for the stock was in the month of June, when it had gone through a correction and then a bounce back from that correction. From those 540, 550 levels, the stock at one point went up to almost 700, 720. So, and from there it's consolidated. So the markets will always take cognizance of the previous major support from where the bounce or the fresh trend materialized. So I think in that sense, a better level to average Loras Labs could be on this 540, 550 mark.
Okay, Sharmila, this one is from Avijit Bose, who says he's a senior citizen from Calcutta or Kolkata. He's got 200 shares of GSK Pharma, and I believe that a large chunk of that is also bonus. Should he sell 100 shares of those and buy something like an Asian Paints, is the question.
Yes, I think he can do that, because if obviously, I mean, this seems to be a long-term holding, and Asian Paints is a company which has sort of consistently given very good returns, and margins are also even in a challenging environment, their margins are good. So yes, I think he can definitely shift some amount of money to Asian Paints.
Okay, this one is from Marion Portman, wants a technical view on SBI Cards for 2 to 3 months. He's holding about 75 shares at 1,090 rupees per share. Kunal, we saw the big block deal take place in SBI Cards today, but on the charts, how is this counter looking like? Marion has bought 75 shares at 1,090 rupees per share.
This is one of the few stocks which should be a keeper from a longer term view. Now, SBI Cards, even though it has a very limited price history, just about year and a half as such in terms of price history, but then whatever the charts and the stability of price patterns, the uptrend the stock has shown in that time span, I think it looks very, very attractive, because it's not been one of the few stocks which have just rallied up post the IPO and then the stock has consolidated. It's moved into a very structural kind of an uptrend. Now, yes, these block deals could probably be a good time where you can look to re-enter the stock or look to average it out further, because it has a tendency of the stock has a tendency of coming back towards its support points or the mean reversion points. So purely on that aspect, I would suggest that you can look to buy or maybe average on dips closer to say 1,000 levels should be a first entry point or a first averaging opportunity, and you can do the same process every 5% down for SBI Cards. But I strongly believe that it should be a keeper from a long term view.
Okay, we've got a question coming in from Carol. Just a small request, don't keep sending messages, it becomes a little difficult to manage. But Carol's got a question for you, Kunal. HUL is a counter. Would you say that it's a good time to enter, considering it's been quite buoyant over the last few sessions?
I definitely believe HUL. In fact, HUL was also one of my morning trades which I had given on the morning show, Alex. And I think one of the reasons for doing that was the tilt of the market. So you have to understand that when the market gets into a high beta mode or a volatile mode, there is an eventual tilt of money or the churn getting back into the defensives. HUL being one of the stronger performers. Look at the price performance yesterday. I think even at a time when the Nifty was down some 200 odd points, HUL was up almost 2.5 to 3% yesterday. So that itself tells you that there was a definite tilt of the money getting back into defensives. So till the time the volatility would sustain for the markets, I would suggest that maybe stocks like the FMCG stocks like HUL, they would continue to move up higher. So I think it makes prudent sense to shift or probably add on to your investments over here.
This one is from Harsh Ranjan and he wants to know, should I buy Tata Motors or Hero MotoCorp at current price to play the EV theme? The time horizon that he has is for 5 years, and which of these can give better returns? What's your take, Sharmila? Is it Tata Motors or Hero MotoCorp? Which one should Harsh look at to play the EV theme?
The EV theme, I think definitely Tata Motors seems better placed because they've already introduced an EV car and they have a couple more lineups. Whereas all the two-wheelers are currently in the process of signing up with people who are in or getting into the EV space. In fact, Ola is the only one which has really launched a two-wheeler, and that's not in the listed space. And obviously, they've had very good numbers over there. But yes, I think with a 5-year perspective, probably, and the Indian context, maybe Tata Motors is a good play for EV.
Okay, Baldev from Jalandhar has got a question on IRCTC, and this one's for you, Sharmila. Can it be purchased at this level? I think a lot of people are watching for that stock split, and some people have actually been holding off on purchases. What would you say should the strategy should be?
Well, if he's doing it from a stock split perspective, then I think he should wait because I think that post stock split and post more liquidity coming in the market, you do sort of seem to see the price sort of taper off and trade in the range. So from that perspective, it might be a better idea to wait for the stock split and look at it 15-20 days after the split shares get listed.
Alright, this one is coming from Sagar and he wants a technical view on Maruti. He's saying he shorted 1,000 shares intraday in cash at around 6,900 levels. But should I continue my position or exit? What's your take, Kunal? What should Sagar do? He's saying he wants a technical view on Maruti, and if you want me to repeat the query, I can do that.
I think I got the hang of it, Cheryl. So I believe that he's shorted at 6,900 odd levels. The stock is back towards 6750. Purely from an hourly chart basis, or maybe I think a very shorter term time frame than that, a 15-minute to 10-minute kind of a chart for Maruti, the RSIs are now forming a double bottom pattern. There is also a sign of divergence coming out in the very, very smaller time frames, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes charts for Maruti. This indicates that probably a bottom formation could be in process over here from an early chart perspective, and you might see the stock bouncing back. So possibility of the stock coming back towards 6,800, 6,825 range could be far more higher. If you bought specifically from an intraday perspective, I think should be good level for you to book out your profits over here.
Okay, I'm trying to find out from Sufi what percentage of his portfolio this is. But Sharmila, 76,000 shares of Vodafone Idea bought at levels of 9.65, and so he says it's 20% of his portfolio. Would you suggest that he should reduce this over a period of time? What should the strategy be?
See, now the news is sort of out in sense the moratorium that the telecom companies have got. My point is simple. I think that going ahead, then now you're going to have to look at Vodafone Idea, how well it will hold its own in this in the telecom space. So they've just dodged the near-term bullet, but their debt is huge, and again they are losing customers. Over the last couple of months, they have lost customers. Also, how do you sustain yourself in a challenging environment if you don't have really money to sort of upgrade your towers and the other things required for holding your own in this business? So I personally think that it is going to be challenging for Vodafone Idea going ahead. Probably the one positive could be that since now 100% FDI is allowed, they're looking for some new player altogether to enter the space. So I think it might, to my mind, it makes sense to at least book partial profit in his case.
Okay, this one is coming from Padmabalan, wants to know about Union Bank, has about 4,000 shares purchased at 40 rupees per share. Should I hold or switch to another counter? A time horizon is a 1 year. Kunal, what should she do? Union Bank, stay put with it or look to switch?
I would advise one thing for sure that many of these market participants or viewers who are looking to buy the PSU banks, I think you have to go with the stronger bank over here, and I think SBI stands out to be one of the strongest bank in the PSU banking name. Whether you look at it in the last 14-15 months of the price recovery, or you look at it over the last 4 to 5 years as well, the stock has managed to stand out quite strongly. So I would suggest that if you have to go with this weak sector, the PSU banking name, you have to go with the strongest stock even in a weak sector like this. And I think SBI should be a much more better alternative. So shift from Union Bank and move towards SBI.
Kunal, a bit of a strategic question here from Mercy, I believe, and from Bengaluru. Bought 500 BPCL shares at 440, looking for a swing. What would the perfect exit and duration be is the question.
If you've bought at higher levels of 440 odd, and I'm assuming if it's post the dividend which came out for BPCL, then I would suggest maybe a 430, 435 could be the first point where you can look to trim your holdings over there. With this dividend out of the way for BPCL, there would be a slew of resistances from the 440 mark towards 450, 460 mark for BPCL. It's going to be a tough task for the stock to break past about this resistance zone. So what I would suggest is try and use the rallies towards this 440, 460 band as a good exit point.
Right, these two questions are on the metal space. We did discuss at length in the lens segment, but let me take both of these questions together. Please pardon me if I go too long. This one is from Anuradha. She's asking if it's a good idea to average out metal stocks like SAIL, NMDC, MOIL if they fall for another 5 to 10%. She's already 10 to 20% in the red. So she wants to know whether she should sell them now at loss or wait for lower price to enter afresh. And the other one is from Magesh. He wants to know about JSPL Tata Steel. Should he continue to hold on at current levels? What's your take, Kunal? What should Anuradha and Magesh do? Should Anuradha look to sell them at a loss, her metal counters right now, and look to enter later, or stay put with them?
Well, I would suggest to stay put. Look at it as more of a longer term story. These metal stocks have a habit and a tendency of going through sharp corrections and sharp periods of uptrend. We discussed this on the charts as well, where I showcased the longer term patterns, the short term patterns as well, that how the sector tends to behave. But you also have to look at it in a manner that these metal stocks have gone through a 10 years of pattern breakout. Hindalco, Vedantas, Tata Steel, JSW Steel, these stocks have given breakouts of almost 8, 9, 10 years, and they've rallied 50% plus even above those 10 years of breakout points. So it's bound to be that these stocks will go through a mean reversion or a correction mode, but that should be taken as an opportunity where you can look to average it out further, because these 10-year breakout patterns, whenever that happens, it leads to at least a 3 to 4 years of uptrend into these stocks. So I would suggest that you should look to try and take opportunity of this volatility, and if these stocks correct by 20% plus, depending on the beta nature of the stock, from the metal pack, you should look to average it out further.
Kunal, Sharmila, it's time to hit the rapid fire segment. Sharmila, you're familiar with this. I just want to confirm once at the start of the rapid fire, and this is the first question to you. IRCTC, if you're not too worried about the stock split, you can accumulate over a period of time, right?
Yes.
Sharmila, this is for you.
Yes, you can.
Okay, this one is from Gautam. He wants to know whether he can buy Voltas for the next 3 months, with a 3-month time frame, that is. Kunal, does it make sense to buy Voltas now?
Well, I would suggest to wait and look out for at least 1150 or 1125 as a much better entry point for Voltas.
Kunal, Granules India is a stock bought at levels of 300 shares. Would you suggest a hold?
Well, I would suggest a hold, even though the stock is below its long-term averages, but I believe that there's a lot of strength on the charts on the medium-term basis. So I would suggest a hold. Don't look to average right now, but at least hold off and wait for targets or a bounce back above the 350 mark as well.
All right, this one is from Radesh. He wants to know whether he can hold CESC for the longer term. What's your take, Sharmila?
Yes, you can continue to hold CS.
Sharmila, quick view, Divi's Laboratories or Gland Pharma, which would you prefer? This is from Nitin.
Both are good, but at this point in time, I prefer Gland Pharma since it's sort of an upcoming story.
Right, this one is from Aman. He wants to know about PNB. He has about 22,500 shares which he's purchased at 39 rupees per share. What's your take, Kunal? What should Aman do with PNB?
Well, I think we should look to book out profits, assuming if the stock comes back towards your cost price and shift towards SBI. That's a much better bet.
Okay, on that note, we're completely out of time. Quite a few of our viewers have asked questions that have not gotten answered. I'd like to apologize for that. If you could only see my screen, you would realize that there are, if not tens, there are hundreds of questions that have come in. We attempt to take as many of them as possible, and hopefully some of the questions have actually benefited you as well. I'd like to thank Kunal as well as Sharmila for joining in, for being so patient and for answering all the questions that you did answer. Thank you so much for joining us. We're slipping into a short break, but more on the other side, so do stay tuned.
Co-powered by Century Lamp.